Good evening, everyone. It's me, Marius, and Karolis. We're back
Hello,
again,
everyone.
and today we're gonna be talking about secondary reality. Secondary reality is a term which I've learned last year, actually, watching a series which is called Esibinis Gyvenimas. Not sure how it's in English. Uh, the main idea behind secondary reality is what people created when they started using words to communicate. When we're using a word, let's say apple, it's not an apple itself, it's just a label which we use to determine an object, and that's what everyone who speaks English understand what apple is, and whoever tried the apple has the experience of the apple but not the apple itself. If someone would call it a board 100,000 years ago, now we would call it a board, not an apple, and that wouldn't make the difference. After understanding that words are limited way of communicating, I've noticed that people connect way deeper when they have the same experience, because experience is the main reality, which is built through experiences and experiencing life. Probably notice that people who have similar life stories, let's say they got divorced or they lost someone they loved, if they meet the person who had the same life path and things happen to them, they can communicate in a deeper level. They can connect on a deeper level, and that's something what you can try to describe by words, using words, but till you didn't experience it, it will never make such a big impact on you till you don't have the experience itself. And as much as we would love to explain in words, and even if you have the widest vocabulary in this world, without having the experience itself and using as the connecting point in the relationship, is impossible to give the experience to another person instead of just taking him through the path and letting him feel and have it as the feeling, not just a word and a label. So knowing the limited ability of talking, recently I started valuing silence, because I think a lot of people, me myself including, I was used to talk just to disturb the silence, and now it's a waste of amazing thing which has all the answers we need if we just let ourselves to be silent. Interesting to notice that a lot of people can't really stay in silence. Like if you're, let's say, in a lift with some person you don't know, it's like an awkward moment because someone will start talking usually, or feel very suppressed for those 30 seconds to stay in the lift with someone they don't know, and it feels awkward, the silence, because like that's how I feel. I don't know, maybe others feels amazing in the lift with people they don't know, but just saying hello, hi, it kind of breaks the pattern of that. So in my opinion, we have to use words wisely and keep the silence to be able to clarify our thought process. What do you think about this, Carlos?
Mm. Um, Honestly, you touched the topic which I could say is one of the main tools that I use when I work with people on coaching sessions. So basic example I had today. Power of word but.
Yes.
So it means that whatever I say before word but is basically erased when I use the word but. And one of my he's not even my client, he was just we was having very deep conversation, and I was just working with him with like with any other client. And then he wrote basically a statement about his current beliefs, about his current situation. And he wrote, but I feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm feeling like I'm not there where I should be, and all this, all that. And where it takes us really is into a perception of a game of words. Because let's say a word, worthy, you know we can make a simple definition on that. But what feels worthy to me is different what feels worthy to Marius. um, Same with respect. What means respect to Marius is different what is respect for me, maybe.
Yes.
Then love, perfect example of love is, when we take into terminology, love is of one thing you can explain as emotion and so on. But if I ask you actionable way, like what means love in action, you will define it absolutely different than your spouse, like example. So the second reality, what Marius choose the topic today, is really, I would say, it's your starting point, people. Because if you don't analyze your own words, what you use, you basically allow yourself to wander in whatever is whatever.
Yes.
Maybe it was like grayish, but it's whatever is whatever. That's what I mean, by saying that if you don't analyze, if you're not self-aware, if you're not self-analyzing, especially when you talk about your problems, especially when you say that you um that things are making you feel certain way. Let's
Yes.
say you feeling that you're not successful, what comes into it, and you keep into that circle of analyzing your words, which brings you to certain beliefs. And that's it. You found your trauma, you found your cultural programming points, you found your limiting beliefs, and all can be changed there, in the first reality of understanding and experiencing the words.
Yes. That's one of the things which I've learned to clarify. Let's say when I'm talking to a person, if it's a deeper conversation, we kind of have to find a common ground and the meaning behind the words we're using, because it's very easy to throw them around and kind of expect that everyone else understands everything as I do, which is very far from the truth. And so it's
Yeah.
really empowering when I noticed my own words and the way I live, because how I speak, that's how I live. That's one of the things when a lot of people are saying that we should write down our goals, our targets, because that's casting a spell on our life. The way we think, that's the way we talk, and that's coming to manifestation as well. Like that's a process of what we call manifestation, which is basically just taking something what is in mental, putting it in the physical, and how we speak. That's how we live. Because you can,
Yeah.
after talking to people who are achieved, let's say, more in life, what is financial success or whatever success they achieved by their own terms, their speech is different from the people who are living in victim mode, who are just talking to talk and kind of keeping the noise on, that the thought process would keep spinning. And people who really try to achieve more than what they have usually have to focus, and focus is needed if I want to break from the pattern I live in.
Mario, they say to focus is hard, but it's also hard to be in depression. It's also hard to be in a mental lethargy, where you where you live in a poor boredom, of your own personal misery and mediocrity. So this Especially when you said that people are avoiding silence and they keep the chatter in their scalp,
Yeah,
or in the environment, just to avoid the silence. But because what is I can give you a simple explanation. When you spend enough time in the silence, you start to recognize that you don't have nothing to do with the mind talk. And the more you realize that you have nothing to do with the mind talk, the more separate you become from the mind, and then more self-aware, more authentic, more individual in the collectiveness you become. And that's, I think, what you cannot describe the words with words. That's
yes,
where you said that it's an experience. Put two people in the room who had the same experience of collectiveness, and they will not need to define this. They will know the wholeness, what the wholeness feeling, whatever you can use for explaining the collectiveness is resonating for us. Yeah. And if I will put somebody, like example, I have two brothers, and they are regularly reading my posts. I see they like my posts. I see them read my posts.
I think
But
you forced
few
them.
times, huh?
I think you forced them to do that.
No, no, not really. Not really, because why now? My grandpa was forcing me to do building work, yeah, and I was feeling like my arms was growing from my ass, because I couldn't hit the nail properly.
Yeah,
Then I forgot the board somewhere, and it's like, or the screwdriver was like working wrong side, so I was unscrewing instead of screwing, and I didn't know how to turn it opposite. It was like, so then at 16 years old, I went 10 kilometers home by just walking, because I was so mad on my grandpa. I thought I will kick him off from the roof. So forcing doesn't work that way.
yeah,
Forcing doesn't work. But what my brothers said, is they like, we we read your posts, we listen what you talk, because they're mostly around me when I'm doing podcasts, when I'm doing my calls, and so on. So I'm quite trying to get involved them, because then I see they asking questions, I see their curiosity. I see they want to go to meetings with me, and I'm like, keep pushing, boys. It's your time is coming. And one time they said for me that way. They said, "We read what you write, but we have no fucking clue what you're saying." And I was purely laughing out of my heart that they said this. They said, like, "We read what you write, but we have no clue what you're talking about." And I was like, "I'm so glad that you have no clue what I'm talking about, but you
yeah,
keep reading this." Because that's how it is. The practice is the practice of your stillness, mind stillness. Same with meditation, to calm your mind down. It's a continuous practice. What is success? What definition of success? Make a post on your profile if you have some sort of a following. Ask what is success for your followers. Everyone writes different. Somebody says financial freedom. Okay, what is financial freedom for you? Somebody who is earning six-figure a year on a full-time job, that's a financial freedom for them. So it's a lot of diversity in that. And I believe this is one of the most important, maybe even the stepping stone of the change in life, when you become so aware about the mouth you talk. Because the word, first thing, was a word.
yeah.
I always remember the sentence. I don't know why, but it always comes to me. First thing was a word. And I believe that the word was one of the main building stones in our modern civilization.
Yes, another thing which I kind of popped into my when you were sharing about being cautious about the books we read, we choose to read, because books takes us
Oh
places.
yeah.
Reading different books is like traveling, and we travel with our mind. And where our mind gets stuck, like we read a book, there's one sentence which can like flip the switch, and the energy is gonna flow there. Then we're gonna talk about it, then we're gonna write about it, and then first like first thing you see that it's already in your life. You can feel it, you can wear it, or you can use it.
Yeah.
And another thing
Sorry.
which
Yeah. That's all
another
right.
thing
Keep going. Keep going.
about teachers and leaders, or no, not leaders, actually can't call them leaders, like people who are doing seminars and similar thing, who has only theoretical knowledge. It's like having a half, being walking through the topic limping, like with one leg, because if you don't have the experience of the same topic you're talking about, you can't help the person to go through the topic which you're talking about. And if you have the experience, then it's the path you walked already, and then you have the ability to explain the topic in simple words, then that's the mentor I would go for. Because it's always easy to talk about different topics just after watching something or reading something. But if the experience is still not there, there's no weight in it. There's no belief in the feeling behind it. So it's harder to connect with people and show them the way through.
It's like, when you remember, I told you that my grandpa was forcing me to go into building works. So it's same that I would say I know how to build a house, but all I did, I was working on the roof, you know. So it's easy to stand on already built house and say, you know, I know how to build a house.
Yeah.
So yes. Another thing why I will, when you said about the books, it's one of my ex-business colleague gave me this book. He gave me a lot of options in the books, and it's a Sun Tzu, Art of War. And I was not reading it for some time, you know, because I was very like Marius said, you know, this is my point of view, that I'm very careful with books what I read, because there was quite a couple books for me. I can't tell you the name in English now, but there was like creating some certain psychological frame in my mindset, and then I was in the path of cleaning myself out on learning. And those two books was the main points that I had to learn, because that those books basically was so accurate in my beliefs at that day, that they made those beliefs in a little bit more concrete, you know. So it was even harder to overcome those beliefs from those books, because they was familiar to me, to my lifestyle, to the cultural programming I received, and philosophy what I lived at that point. And there is a saying in this book that you cannot avoid the conflict, and if you want to postpone it, you can postpone it into advantage of your opponent. And why I'm saying this quote, because what really happened is, you cannot win any war if you don't know how to be in peace. And there
That
is a
please.
huge difference in a perspective. Sorry, Marius.
Can you repeat that quote you mentioned?
You cannot postpone a conflict in your own favor. You can postpone the conflict only in the favor of your opponent.
Okay.
And it's a legit one, because if I would be reading this book, let's say 6 years ago, I would clearly understand this differently. You know, so I would understand this quote that way: if there is a conflict, strike first. Okay. Now, how I understood right now, like at the point when I was reading, going through the book, is that when I face the challenge, I need to address this challenge here and now, instead of postponing this challenge into going out, having a drink, or let's talk another day. Or it's the procrastination of insecurities, procrastination of being being so fearful of the outcome that you don't even try to don't even try to tap into this. And that's why really is we have to be we have to be cautious about the books, because if someone is in aggressive mindset and you give him books about war or about how to be a gladiator, you know, he's gonna go gonna go and make blood rivers, you know, because that's what you're programming in his mind. And it has to be something, switch, events, situation, something that has to happen, that the direction change, so direction changes in his life. So yeah, Marius, that I'm glad that you put into perspective the importance of the books we read. And I believe one of the foundational books we should read is any book about unconditional love. Because if you know what is unconditional love, you know what is unconditional acceptance, unconditional forgiveness, and unconditional gratitude. And if you know these, what I mentioned, you know, you have no issue with handling the war, because then perspective of the war is directly mirroring in your own situation where you are right now.
Yes, for me it took only 33 years to understand what unconditional love is. So it, at least for myself, the way I understand it, the first time I've heard it is I was what, yeah, 32 or 33. It was like, what you talking about? I thought I know what love is, and then it took me more than 1 year to understand that I had no idea what unconditional love is. So it
Uh,
again
huh.
confirms our topic about secondary reality.
Indeed. For myself, I knew what is the unconditional love. I experienced that at some points. You know, I thought I experienced, until one day I was volunteering for about a month in UK, in Boston, in a, like, it's not a homeless shelter, but it's like homeless support group where they help them, you know, to sort the documents, you know, get the benefits, you know, get the housing things sorted. And I had a conversation with a person who is a heavy drinker, you know, a drug addict. And he didn't seem to be, in the beginning, he didn't seem to be the one who's you know, who could cry, you know, on your shoulder, who could, you know, uh, share his story and so on. And then one day I just invited him to have a conversation. And then he had started to tell me how he goes to sleep every day, you know. And every day he's going to sleep and he's begging God to take away his life, you know. And I was like, you know, how funny it is to judge people by their, when you have no shit clue of why they are in it and where it takes them, you know. Stephen Harvey was homeless.
Yeah,
You know, it's like it's that this thing of unconditional love is much more than just love, you know. Because what is love, you know? Is like love is a body sensation? No, it's really, it's about when a neighbor is not listening for your advice and you still love him, you know. It's about, you know, when your wife is going to the wrong direction and she betrays you and you still love her and wish her pure happiness, not just because to cover your pain, but to really mean that you wishing her happiness. Because in my life, you know, I was used to betrayal, I was used to rejection, you know. And that's why I was keep failing, that's why I was keep allowing people to betray me. And at certain point in my life I was like, but there is no such thing as betrayal for me, because that's my perspective about what that person does to me. And if that person needs to live with somebody or he needs to share that with somebody, a betrayal format, it means that he needs to do this. Why I should attach
I think it's for,
myself, my own. Ah,
I think it's for another topic about relationship cheating and betrayal.
no, but that's a second reality. It's not really for another topic. It's about a perspective, what
Well,
you give for experience.
you're correct.
Oh yeah, it was the internet connection, as usual. Our budget internets are doing his own. So yeah, it's about really the perspective. The second is like maybe third reality or fourth reality. Like I'm delusional because some people are suffering from betrayal, and I accept betrayal as a part of this world. Because that's what happens every day.
Yes.
And what is really a betrayal? It's a lesson.
Yeah.
It's a great lesson, to release with no strings attached. Because when people say, I know it's perfectly fine for me. No, I'm not angry. Look, I'm
Yeah.
not angry because they
Or,
betrayed me,
or,
but I'm
or
ready to buy the piece of
you know,
meat.
one of the more common ones is it's like 5 years, it happened 5 years ago, I'm fine with it, or it happened X years ago, so like now, no, you're not fine, you just know that you have to feel in a certain way, or you kind of got used to living in a certain way, but like you're not fine about it if you keep talking about it.
Yeah,
If
it's
that's
like, mm,
really,
my wife left me 1,385 days ago and 2 hours ago, and it's like I'm all right with
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah, so I think we touched a very interesting
Yeah.
tonight.
So yeah,
So for the closing statement, is there
yeah.
anything you want to say?
Uh, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 times today in this video, and I will repeat myself on this one because I believe that's a period line on self education, on learning the patterns. Listen to what you talk, and it's not just philosophy of this point. It's talk with anyone from a street, talk to anyone from a high-end businesses. Listen to words. Every deal contains the words. Every life situation contains the word. Every down moment contains the word. Get into the words what you are saying. Analyze them. Find the roots, where it comes from, what it brings to you, and you will find solutions to all of your problems.
Thank you, Karolis. And
Marius, anything?
yes, and I would say that listen to the words, but observe the actions as well, because actions speak louder than words, and in the long term, they're gonna help you to see more than what is said. And of course, be aware of your tongue, because how we speak, that's how we live. We cast a spell on our life, and it's a very powerful one, especially when we speak about ourselves. So
Yeah.
thank you for tonight. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, comment, contact, whatever you like. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.